Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, and I'm here with the one and the only Erica Ayala, who just got off of HQ. She was talking about the same thing we're going to talk about, and I'm sure it was fantastic. But we're here to talk Commissioner's Cup. We just watched it. There's a lot to talk about, a lot more than we probably thought that we were going to be talking about, to be honest with you. But hey, everyone can be and we absolutely love it. Absolutely love that we're watching this live. Make sure that you put in all your comments. We want to talk with you throughout this, and we love this community that we have. But if you are not connected, you're not going to get the shows that we have all of the time. So you see all of this information down below. Make sure that you connect on every single level. Subscribe, like, comment, share. We're really close to 100K on YouTube, you guys. We're really excited about that. We're getting there. And, we have to do all the things to make sure that We Need to Talk Now is with all of us. We're having those conversations like we're having here tonight with the Commissioner's Cup. So make sure that you do all the things because, listen, you're going to miss out on shows like this, and they're fantastic. I just want you to know. I mean not to toot our own horn, but they are.
Let's toot toot.
Come on, toot toot. All right. Well, listen, Erica, we're going to get into the Commissioner's Cup, but we definitely need to talk about something that just happened, and that was the jersey retirement of none other than Candace Parker. I mean, listen, she obviously deserves it on every single level. She had titles in LA, which is where this jersey was retired in 2016, where she was the MVP. The Sky in 2021, in Vegas in 2023, 5-time All-Star. I mean, she has definitely changed the game of basketball in every single way. To see her jersey go up into the rafters at Crypto.com Arena, what were your thoughts? I mean, it was a very special moment. It was beautiful to watch, Erica.
Well, I think it's what makes it so beautiful is that, it was the Los Angeles Sparks. If you go back not too long ago, it didn't seem too long ago to me, at least, it seemed like Parker's exit from the Sparks didn't necessarily encompass what her legacy was at the moment and clearly is now. And so for the Los Angeles Sparks to step up in that way, I believe Chicago, also has some plans now that Parker is retired. But I love that aspect of it. And Lisa Leslie, of course, shout out to Lisa Leslie, but she was there for the jersey retirement, talked about effectively handing over the keys, right, to Candace Parker, and that was something important to her, someone who was there from the beginning and felt that she could entrust the Sparks legacy and the franchise to a player of the caliber of Candace Parker. Just phenomenal. I mean, there's so many things, so many emotions. Also, like everyone was looking amazing. Like the glow, the happy, the joy was so real, and I was here for it. So, I just think overall, this was fantastic. Candace Parker has been someone who has battled through so much. And to see her have this honor with her family there, amazing.
Because not only... Yep. I'm so sorry. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. So we might have talked over each other. I don't know what y'all heard. I was talking, Erica was talking. We're just excited about this jersey retirement for sure. And I might be saying something that you just said, but when I look at that photo is so phenomenal of Lisa and Candace. It just really shows you, what the league has been and what it has meant to everybody. I mean, you see Lisa, who was obviously a legend. That's an understatement for sure. And she's looking at somebody that she influenced that also influenced the game of basketball in ways that I don't think we can even measure, really and honestly. And both of these women have done so much for the WNBA. And for her to be at her ceremony, celebrating her and what she did, and just her influence that she had on Candace, and also just playing right beside her,
Alicia, I love what you're saying there, and I just think, I mean, it doesn't get much better than one of the original franchises being able to have that moment. So kudos to everyone who put that together. Obviously, congratulations to Candace Parker. I mean, exactly. It was an amazing moment. Abby Sports Picks and Analysis. It was an amazing moment. One legendary player acknowledging another. And that's the sisterhood of the WNBA. It's been something that I have loved to watch in my years of being able to not just cover the WNBA, but now, of course, being a fan. So again, congratulations to Candace Parker. What an amazing career. And yeah, girl, you know, the real MVPs were in the house in LA.
They definitely were. And kudos in every single way. We will be celebrating her again.
Listen, Al Gore's internet will not let us be great tonight, it looks like. But I mean, we had to talk about that off the top. Absolutely. You know, we mentioned the Commissioner's Cup. Listen, y'all. As Alicia mentioned, I was on HQ, and you know, I'll give you a little backstory here. When we get ready to go on HQ, the producer will ask, you know, some predictions, this, that, and the third every once in a while. So I made some predictions, and then they followed up because I was like, Indiana's going to win. I think they asked me for a score. I said margin, about 16 points. And they were like, okay, just to be clear, you're picking Indiana without Caitlin Clark to win the cup. I was like, yep, we're doing it. Do you know, I almost got the margin of victory exactly right. Now, the score was lower than I thought. It was a little bit anemic. I thought we were going to get a high scoring game. If you look at the games where Minnesota has lost, you know, usually they're held to sub 85. So I'm thinking that means Indiana has to score at least 90, 95, somewhere in that range. This was a fantastic performance. Didn't get a good start, Indiana, but they hunkered down defensively. I love good defense, always something I'm going to talk about. And 7 points. That's all Minnesota got in the second quarter. 0 of 3 was Kayla McBride, aka McBuckets, from the 3-point arc. Took her a while even to take some shots from there. Overall, this was not the prettiest of games, but it definitely gave you the air of, oh, this is some playoff basketball, right? And that's what we love. Oh, that's what I love about the Commissioner's Cup, is that it's an in-season tournament. I love this. Hey, Ghost, what's good? Shepard was the only Lynx player who shot over 50% for the night. I mean, Jessica Shepard, a healthy Jessica Shepard for this Minnesota Lynx team is a problem. I want to give a shout out also to, you know, Alana Smith. I think she held Minnesota down for a while, but just seemed like the buckets weren't falling. I mean, both teams at times had shots that easily they're making in other scenarios rim out. And so again, not the high scoring game that I was expecting, but what a fantastic win for Indiana. And I think it shows what this team is. Of course, we know that they're fantastic with a phenomenal player like Caitlin Clark. And we've seen a few times now, Alicia, that it's not just Caitlin Clark, that this is a team that's learning how to win together. And I love that Stephanie White was able to go to her bench for key stops defensively, key sparks offensively to get this win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know what you just said, and thank you for holding it down, because I don't know what's going on with this internet, Lord. But what I would say is that this was a game where I think it was pivotal for the Fever and what they're trying to do. I mean, they said at the beginning of this year that they want a championship. They said that, right?
Sure
and
did.
A lot of people have been saying, oh, we don't know. You know, we're not sure. But while it is important to have Caitlin Clark on your team, and while we obviously want her to be healthy and be back,
100%.
I think if you're turning lemons into lemonade, you're looking at this game in real time and seeing them how to figure it out without her, which is a mark of a good team.
Exactly.
You want a team that is going to be able to step up regardless of the conditions, right?
That's it.
And right now, the condition is that Caitlin Clark is out with a groin injury. So you have to have people that are going to come in and do what they need to do to win, regardless of who is out there on the court. And you're
100%.
seeing them do that in real time. And so, you know, I'm not going to say the Lynx just didn't have a great game. Let's be clear. They didn't. They didn't. But I also want to give credit to where credit is due. 100%. And there's a team that is out there on the court that is literally figuring out all of the assets that they have and the aspects that they have to be a winning team and a team that can be a contender for a championship. I mean, they obviously just won the Commissioner's Cup, but their ultimate goal is that. And that is what we're seeing happening in these games without Caitlin.
Yeah, 100%. I like this comment about Howard saying she wanted to be MVP. And listen, this is someone who has won individual awards, that has WNBA titles. And this was a great game to introduce to some and remind to plenty that Natasha Howard, like she don't mess around. Like she could ball, she could hoop. It was just steady. It was the steady anchor that they needed so that other players could have those impact moments that we talked about defensively, offensively.
Yeah, and we know that Natasha Howard has always been a baller. She been a baller. She gonna be a baller, and she showed us exactly who she was tonight. But I loved in her comments when she accepted the MVP, she was like, "It's not about me," and I'm paraphrasing, but it's about the players. It's about the team. We know what our goal is. We want to step up and win. And we showed that we had each other's backs tonight. And that's also why she is such, she's essential for that Fever team. She's a vet. She's somebody who leads. She's obviously a baller, like we just said. But in addition to that, she's showing them the blueprint on what it is like to be a champion.
100%.
You know, day in and day out, practice and practice out. So shout out to Natasha Howard in every single way, because you did that tonight and we know that you've been doing it.
Sure did. And also I love to see the connection when you have post player to post player. And we did see Howard, Boston, Howard. Love that connection. Usually that's something that we see, again, Caitlin Clark being able to facilitate. But the fact that they're finding each other, again, this is a team that you just see clicking. You know, I thought Aaliyah Boston had another solid game, 12 points, 10 rebounds, so gets a double-double. Aari McDonald, I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, lemons to lemonade, I mean, you know, what is it that Don Staley says? Delayed, not denied. That's Aari's story, I think, so far.
Absolutely. She is, I think, the best signing that has happened for pretty much any team for me, you know, at this point in the season. You know, I think they've signed her twice at this point. Maybe it's twice. It might be even twice at this point.
Yep.
And yeah, and Aari McDonald is literally going in there and showing people why she should be on that court. She is affecting every single play on both ends. She is invaluable on that team. She showed that tonight. And I think if she's not the most effective signing that people have had, I mean, she's got to be up there in the top two.
Right. Which, like, who had that on their bingo card coming into a season where Indiana signed DeWanna Bonner? Well, we talked about that. They signed Sid Colson. They bring in Natasha Howard. You know, that's just wild. So, you know,
it is.
Kudos to her. You love to see it. Before we, you know, move on and talk about some other aspects and elements, I also, you know, I call it my auntie vibe. And auntie vibe is what led me to feel confident saying that Indiana was going to win. Because what do we know about the Commissioner's Cup now? It's only a few years in. So, you know, early returns, if you will, you know, small sample size. But if you go back to back, if you appear in a Commissioner's Cup back to back, you ain't winning in year number 2. Go talk to Vegas, go talk to New York. That just don't happen. But what's interesting is, are we also maybe finding a trend where, I should also say, another trend is visiting squad, y'all pretty much gonna take the check home. Okay? Let's put it out there. But are we also seeing, Alicia, that if you lose in the Commissioner's Cup, not only do you make the WNBA finals, but maybe you win a WNBA title. That's what happened to New York. Again, early returns. We got to see how things pan out. But maybe Lynx fans, y'all gonna be all right.
I was gonna say you might want to count your blessings on this one, because if that's the truth, if that's like, a thing that is happening where like if you win it, you ain't gonna win the chip. Well, you're sitting pretty good right now.
Hey.
And that might be the only way to explain how the Lynx played tonight.
Hey,
Because
listen. It was rough. It was rough. Like, I don't, we can't say for sure. All we do know is that Nafisa Collier has been injured this season. And I think
Yes.
it's fair to say that Nafisa Collier, she definitely was a little bit frustrated with the calls, but I think maybe some of the underlying frustration was that she wasn't able to execute, whether that had to do with an injury or not, or Indiana's defense, maybe both, but she wasn't able to execute at the level that she wanted. I think that there were times where she was maybe second guessing and things like that. So that's something that you hope that is just, hey, you chalk it up to wasn't your night and you move on. You hope that it's not anything lingering for Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, those kinds of things I read into those things. I read into the lore, so to speak, or the trends that we're seeing in different, whether it's championships or things of that nature. Because for y'all who are hockey fans, if you touch the President's Trophy, that's bad news if you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. There's just certain things that athletes, that they like, I work too hard to let a little jinx stop me now.
Yeah. No, and you know what? If that's what it is, that's what it is. Okay. We may see the Lynx at the end of the season with the hardware in their hand, the championship trophy in their hand. I will say this though. I don't want to diminish what the Lynx did, because they did play some really fantastic defense. You could tell that they disrupted them. They disrupted the team that they usually are. And then on the flip side, a team that's usually fantastic defensively, the Lynx just did not do, they just didn't do the job that they usually do in that respect. I mean, it was kind of, it's hard because you want to say, yes, the Lynx did not have a great game, but also the Fever dissected a lot of what they do and they dismantled it. They really did.
It was a great game in that it was scrappy. I don't know about y'all. I like a scrappy game. I'm from New York. Folks know I like me some sandpaper. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a high scoring affair. Both teams had to fight, and it was about execution. And to me, that's what makes, again, a championship type arena. You talk about, again, backdoor defending goes. That's a great point. I think that there were some assignments that were lost. Turnovers were not great for either team. Both of them don't want to go back to the board on that one. But another thing that I will say, maybe again speaking directly to Lynx fans, y'all have 4 titles, but if you look at the years in which y'all won, you've never won in an even year, only odds. So that, again, delayed or denied last year, but not denied forever. And we're in 2025 now. So between Lynx lore and Commish Cup lore, I don't know, y'all might be smiling all the way into the fall.
It's lore all the way around for the Lynx after that game. Lore. They definitely on every single level. Hey, let's look for a silver lining in this for you guys. For sure. Definitely. Well, we need to talk about something that we do every single week here on We Need to Talk Now, and that is the guarantee of the week presented by AT&T. So this is I don't know if this is as much of a guarantee as it is kind of a discussion on, do we need, like, how important is Caitlin Clark's return for Indiana? We've kind of talked a little bit about like the team and what they've done in her absence, but how important is it for their success, for kind of like for them to move forward and be effective for the like second half of the season, right? I don't think we're all the way halfway through, but what is our take, I guess you would say, on her importance, like our guaranteed take on how important we think Caitlin Clark is for this Fever team moving forward.
I think we can guarantee that she is 100% a key player, if not the key player for this team. Just because a team is finding ways to win and refusing to lose, even when they're not playing perfect, that to me again speaks to the grit and the determination and the growth that's happening in real time for Indiana. And so then you get a guaranteed bucket, a guaranteed, threat to get a triple double every night. It's criminal, which is wild that of all things to say that we underappreciate Caitlin Clark's passing and facilitation for sake of her shooting. Those are things that, of course, you want to 100% lock down guarantee when it comes to the success of this Indiana Fever squad. That I mean, to me, that's not even a question. And so again, when you have a player like Caitlin Clark that's maturing, I think in real time this season, has had to step aside, see what's happening with her teammates. I think we can say that she's becoming an even better version of herself. And what that is the best player and the most critical player for the success of this Indiana Fever squad.
Yeah, I think one thing we can guarantee is that squad is better with Caitlin Clark on it, and any team would be, right? I mean, there were some comments that came up a little bit earlier that said that Aaliyah Boston is definitely 100% more powerful when Caitlin Clark is in. Yeah, Cece helps Boston score. That's a powerful duo. Absolutely. AB is a completely different player without Caitlin. And that's a guarantee. I mean, that team is leaps and bounds better. Let's just be clear. When Caitlin Clark is on it. Now, again, two things can be true at once.
Yes.
Are they learning how to play without her and that will be effective for them? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be a better team with Caitlin Clark on it? Absolutely.
100%.
So what we for sure can guarantee is that the Fever are 1000% a better team with Caitlin Clark on it. And so, yes, we need Caitlin Clark to come back for that Fever team.
100%.
And for the game of basketball as well. I mean, she's just a phenomenal player, but, big picture for this team, I think that every single thing that they are going through is setting them up for success in the future. And what Tina said too, hey, this is a great point that we haven't even touched on, is that I hope Clark don't come back too soon. She needs to heal. And that is true too. In order for the team to be effective on all levels, on all cylinders, you need a healthy Caitlin Clark, not somebody who is continuing to heal while they're playing. Right. And I don't know if anyone saw this, but she winced a little bit when she got up. We saw like a clip of that. And so she definitely is in pain. And so it's important for her to stay out until she is fully healed so that she can be the Caitlin Clark to the Fever that they need and the Caitlin Clark that we have been seeing all along.
Yeah, 100%. Again, it seems like it is that same leg and it's gone from ankle to quad to groin. And so you don't want that to continue being a problem to where she's sidelined more indefinitely than what we're seeing now. That's the first thing. But I mean, talk about next player up. Talk about having your teammates back. The luxury that Caitlin Clark, but now Stephanie White and her coaching staff have to not feel that pressure, whether it's spoken or unspoken. Like anyone who's played sports, y'all know you kind of looking down like, okay, but like, are you hurt? Are you hurt? Or you just hurt? Like we gonna rub some dirt on it. You're gonna be all right and get back in this game. So I think that to take that off of Clark and again the coaching and training staff shoulders because you're finding ways to win. I don't want to undersell that point. That's what has impressed me about this Indiana Fever squad. And if you get, as you pointed out so beautifully, you get a rested, a healthy Caitlin Clark back, they're going to be exactly where they want to be, which is making a push for the WNBA finals. This is a team that just doesn't want to get to the playoffs. They got there last year. They want to win a series. They want to get deep into a playoff run and put themselves in a position not just to compete for one title and get to a WNBA finals one time, but hopefully be a team that can be a perennial playoff team and be constantly, consistently pushing to be a top 2, top 4 team in the league.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And one thing that we need to do is answer a question. We have a lot of questions from you on this live show. I do too. So was this game more a Fever win or a Lynx loss? If you know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean, Ghost.
Ooh, we got you. Sometimes I feel like the answer is obvious. I'm not so sure. I think you can look at it from either angle. I think if I take this was a Fever win, more of a Fever win, it's because of everything that we said, right, for our guarantee, including that you give Clark the peace of mind to really rest and heal properly. Now, on the other side of things, was it more of a Lynx loss? I'm not leaning towards this one because, again, I just feel like it was a game where they didn't have their best stuff. Now, that's not ideal going into a Commissioner's Cup where there's money on the line, but that happens a lot, like more than they'll get in their playoff and championship bonus. So that, which is anyway, conversation for that CBA negotiation that's going on, I guess.
But circle back on that.
But I think that for me, it's hard to say that it's more of a Lynx loss when it just seemed like this was uncharacteristic. I didn't think that it was a lack of effort. There were things that they were making mistakes. Sure, everyone does in a game, but it's shots that they normally make not falling. The rim just not being in their favor. Too tight, too loose. Who knows? Whoever is on maintenance is going to have a sit down with Cheryl Reeve, I'm sure. But I think for me, at least, Alicia, I'm leaning towards it's more of an Indiana Fever win as opposed to a Lynx loss. But I could definitely see arguing both sides.
Yeah, I lean towards a Fever win as well, but I think that it could be a win for the Lynx if it kind of is a wake-up call.
I like
something that is a teaching moment, because the Lynx have had obviously a fantastic year. They're at number 1 in the standings. And Fee has been playing immaculately up until today, and even today shots weren't falling. There was just a lot of things that were happening, but it just shows that you're not invincible. And in order for you to, everyone is going to be coming for you. In order for you to win, you have this chip on your shoulder from last year not winning. Your goal is to win this year. And in order to do that, you're going to have to step it up and not have nights like this. You just cannot let this happen, going down the stretch, especially. So in that respect, it could be a huge win for Minnesota if they learn from the loss.
Whiteboard material. Let's go. I also like what Tina said. I alluded to this on earlier, and I believe on HQ as well. I don't like to speculate, and we know Fee has been injured, and we know that this was not a characteristic Fee performance. I just think that she looked a little hesitant, a little reserved, not 100%. Not the MVP that we all know and have seen throughout the season. So I just wanted to shout out Tina for that comment, because I agree, sis. I agree, fam.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something going on there. But what do we think Reeve is telling her squad now? I know the Commissioner's Cup was a goal. It was a goal, but it's not the goal. That's what I think she's telling them. Like,
fair.
Our goal, like I just said, our goal is to win the championship. A lot of that team, if not all of that team, feels like they should have won it last year. And so they're really coming in with something to prove. And it's just like the Commissioner's Cup was a goal for sure, no doubt. But I don't think it's the goal they're going after. And so they just got to recalibrate. They got to recalibrate after that.
100%, and again, things they could have controlled. Maybe she leans into that part of it. But to your point, also whiteboard material. All right, this was your shot. You got a chance to get not only playoff, but championship experience in the middle of the season. And we didn't get it done. So
Right.
what y'all gonna do? What we gonna do now? Okay, like think about that and tell me. Like that's what I would be like, and not on like not trying to be shady or not trying to be dismissive or anything. And I'm trying to put people down, but like matter of factly, tell me what are y'all gonna do? What are we gonna do as a team? What are you gonna focus on individually? And let's do that the rest of the way.
Well, Erica, what we gonna do right now is talk about WNBA expansion. There was a huge announcement this week that we're expanding to 3 more cities in the W, okay? Philadelphia, Detroit, and Cleveland. That's going to be by 2030, bringing the league to 18 teams, Erica. Like, what? So with Portland and Toronto obviously set to begin to play next year. So a little bit of time before we see all of these 18 teams. But what are your initial thoughts on the additions? Like, I'm excited about additions, but some people weren't. Let's just be clear. There was a lot of chit and chatter that was going on about it. But what are your thoughts on it?
I think overall it's excitement. I think especially knowing that this expansion is a return to some cities, to a couple of cities. It's a return, if you look at all 3 of them, of women's pro basketball to these cities. So I love that aspect and element of it. I think that if you look at it from a business perspective, you're making some assumptions. I would imagine that you're not just going to expand all willy-nilly if the numbers aren't looking right. So again, we've been talking wink, 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 CBA negotiations. I think that is hopefully a good return. And there have been times where WNBA players have felt that numbers weren't as transparent as they would like. So maybe now just taking these trends and analysis, seeing that there's expansion, will that lead to more transparency or a better understanding of where the WNBA is? Not a great day or not a great week for, the WNBA is leaking money and is a burden for the NBA. Not a good week for those folks. But I think the things that I have questions about, and I alluded to it a little, how does this talk about the financial viability of the WNBA and how does that then trickle down to players? I still want both and expansion in teams, but roster expansion. I mean, we talked about Aari McDonald. There have been emergency hardship contracts. We're in a Eurobasket year where players are leaving. I want to know when it's viable to expand rosters for the sake of the quality and product and of course the players themselves. And then, I know people are a little salty about the cities that did get picked. And, I love people putting on for their city. Like, when is it my turn? I love that. I love that we're here, like, to me, that's just that those are good things. As far as overall talking about the WNBA.
Yeah. And I think also, I'm so excited about expansion. I think it's long overdue. We definitely need it for the league. We need it for the players too, if it's done correctly, right? However, I just want to make sure that the planning is sound for this. Players are already talking about the rigorous game schedule, not having enough downtime. When you add these teams, how are you changing the schedule to make sure that we're going to have a really good playing environment for the players that are on these teams? And I think one of the ways that we do that is roster expansion as well, because you see the injuries that are happening. You see that teams don't have enough players when it comes to the rosters. So it's like that needs to I believe that needs to happen before any all of these teams get there, number one. But in addition to that, are we planning correctly for the health and welfare of these players when we're adding all of these teams? It's not easy to just say, oh, we're going to add some teams. No. There's more games. There's different cities that you're going to. So you have to look at travel time. There is a long list of things that need to happen to make sure that these teams are going to be able to play each other and play each other in a way that is not going to wear down the players that are on these teams. And that's just one thing, right? There's so many variables when it comes to having more teams in a league. It is not an easy feat. And so I just hope that there is a lot of planning and really smart strategic planning involved, in addition to adding these teams to the WNBA.
That's a fantastic point. And I mean, we got another, we need to talk now coming up. So we gonna bite into some of this. But I think, what Ghost is saying, too East Coast heavy. We do know that a lot of people also noticing that the South, the dirty, not really being represented. Nashville was an option. North Carolina, raise up, let's go, PD Pablo. I think, when are we going to see the South have more representation in the WNBA? I think also you got to look at travel and how that impacts. I will also say, and we might need to talk about this on our next episode, but how are GMs feeling? Because baby, y'all going to be planning for expansion drafts until we get to 2030. And maybe even beyond. We don't even know, because this every year you got to figure out who you're trying to protect. That's crazy,
man. And that's a lot of field. The whole protection of certain players things that runs deep on your team too. So it's kind of hard in that respect to do that on an existing team, right? So there's a lot of layers to that expansion in that draft. All of that. I mean, there's so many layers to just like, hey, we're going to add some teams.
Right.
And so it's all going to be really interesting how it rolls out for sure. Now, one thing people talked about heavy this week when it came out, or I should say a couple of days, not even this week, is that the WNBA seems to be prioritizing ownership groups that with ties to the NBA during the expansion. So the last 6 bids all had NBA ties. And so they all had those ties. And I'm wondering, how you feel about it and how people watching feel about this. Let us know, because I kind of think in some ways it's a little bit unfair to people who don't have NBA ties and just want to start the WNBA in their markets. Tennessee being one that I'm thinking of. Specifically because I love their rollout, to be honest with you. And also to have ties to Pat Summitt is phenomenal. I mean, I don't even see how you turn that down.
Peyton Manning, not to mention who we started the show off with, Candace Parker. Come on, what are we doing? And Knoxville, first of all, I'm gonna use this to plug this. If you have never been to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame and you love women's basketball, try to go. Every time I go, I learn so much about the game. People are so giving of their stories, of the history. So you got to check that out. Knoxville is where the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is. So you can say what you want about Connecticut. Don't come for me, UConn fans. You can say what you want about Connecticut, but as far as being the curators, the protectors of the culture, of the history, that's happening in Knoxville. But to your point, I think that everything old is new again, is what I was thinking when you were talking about this. Because how did the WNBA start? Offshoot of the NBA, still very connected to the NBA. And that was the plan, to get NBA owners to commit to women's basketball. And then when that wasn't, the taste of or the talk of the town, it wasn't the taste of the day, then you saw independent groups come in and carry the WNBA and continue to elevate the stakes and the value, right, of the WNBA. And so now again, I wonder if we'll get more transparency here, but it seems like we are in a position where we're at a next phase of the WNBA from a business perspective. And, say what you want about Kathy. I know a lot of y'all like to get on her for what she decides to wear at a WNBA finals, but she was brought in here to, I think, do just this. And so now that we're here, what does that look like, and how does it integrate? I hope that it integrates with the culture that was created from fans who felt, and understandably so, for a time, that it was them and the players and specific independent owners that were really holding things down. But now, again, everything old is new again. Now we have people wanting to come in, and those are good things on the business side. And how does it blend seamlessly with the culture that so many people love?
Absolutely. But what I will say is, just because you have an ownership group that has NBA ties, or the bid, has NBA ties, doesn't necessarily equate to being ready. And it's a far different thing to run a WNBA team than an NBA team. It's a far different, you may have a facility that is nice, or you may have something that is kind of like a bell and a whistle when it comes to this, but that doesn't mean you have a group that is intact and ready to execute. It can be true. We see the Valkyries are definitely doing that. They're hitting on all cylinders. I just went to my first game.
Hey!
I just went to my first game. We actually shot a feature with Dawn Staley, which I'm still in pinch me that I was like at my first Valkyries game with Dawn Staley. But anyways,
that's awesome.
And what they have built there is fantastic. I used to work for the Golden State Warriors, and I worked at Oracle, and there was nothing like that environment. And it really felt close to what I felt there. I'm telling, if not more, it was electric. It was electric. And they really are doing a great job. So you have that scenario, right? First expansion team we've had in a long time, and they're successful because we have an excellent fan group that was ready for that. And then also, like, they've executed. Let's be clear. However, you have a team, and I don't want to say anything specific because we don't know what's going on, but you have a team in Portland, and that's my hometown. So this kind of pains me to say this, but it's looking like there's already problems there, and we haven't even started yet. Like,
you in danger, girl.
Listen, I mean, they have fired the president, and we haven't even seen what she's able to do, right? And so there's something going on. We don't know what it is. It's, I'm not going to sit here and speculate, but I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily equate. So I just hope that they're not just looking at that as the link to success, because I know that there are teams, like, there is no doubt in my mind that Tennessee Summit team would be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to analytics and data points versus real culture. I think you could look at New York, the Liberty, I should say, when they played in Madison Square Garden versus the Liberty playing at Barclays. Both going back to the question that you posed, NBA ownership, but very different approach to, as you beautifully noted, women's basketball in their business model for their franchises. So I don't know.
Well, I'm excited about the expansion, but we're going to see how it's executed for sure. But right now, we are going to look at what you want to ask us, because we're here with each other right now. So, Brandon Sleep. Now, I'm a little nervous about this question. What is it now? Bree Turner in the Timpson trade for Aaliyah Edwards, or don't mess with the formula?
Ooh, okay, this is tough because
Timpson, rather. Sorry.
I made a prediction that Aaliyah Edwards could have a phenomenal season coming in. And you would think that with how Washington was projected coming in, and even where they sit in the playoffs, that you could find some minutes for Edwards. So the fact that we're not, and as far as I know, unless I missed something, very possible, she's not injured. So is that a fit thing? We saw this with Lee Yarou, right? Traded to Seattle, But I mean, when you got NECA, you draft Dom, you've got Gabby, you got Ezzy. Where are minutes coming from Leroux? Goes to Dallas, has been an impact player there. So and I want to say that about Bree Turner as well. Bree Turner, like, phenomenal defender. Someone you absolutely want to have on your squad, but is not really seeing the court at all in Indiana. As far as don't mess with the formula, I think what we were saying earlier on this episode is that, like, the formula is still being figured out, and you can always sharpen the saw, sharpen the axe, however you get down, just sharpen what you're working with. And I think that if it leads to, from a player perspective, if it leads to more minutes, more of an impact to relocate, I, for one, would love to see it, because I think Edwards especially, but both Turner and Edwards, in my estimation, have more to give than what we have seen showcased in this particular season.
Yeah. And you literally took kind of like the words out of my mouth, because I was just going to say, I think it could be good for both the team and the player in this case, like having a better fit. And we've seen that many times, even throughout this season. Like you just pointed out some amazing examples of that. So I'm not really against it. I think it could be a great fit. Can we explain fit to you? Don't executives consider this before a trade?
I mean, you hope so, right? And here's the thing: fit on paper, Ghost, versus fit in real time. I mean, again, DeWanna Bonner should have been a great fit in my estimation for Indiana. Didn't work out. Those things can be a little bit different. And sometimes you have a player that really breaks out, and it makes it hard for a coaching staff to then take them out of a rotation to give minutes to someone who maybe, again, on paper or at the start of the season, they were expecting to integrate. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at that, but that's how I would describe fit, is that it can look different on paper versus in practice.
And then we also talk about fit a lot on the basketball court. But when you are a player on a team, it's not just that. It's chemistry, it's environment, it's coaching style. It's a whole bunch of things that may not be conducive to the player. And, the player may not be conducive to what the coach is trying to build too. And we've seen some teams, the Valkyries, for example, just shift in so many different ways because they're building the best team out there on the court, regardless kind of how they may feel about a player too.
Right.
They're looking at how these players are fitting together in the system that they're building. And so, I don't know what's going on with, any of these players that we're talking about, but it could be something as simple as the city is just not for them. The coaching style is not for them.
Yeah, the system, right. They're not buying.
The fit is not just, can they play out on the court? The fit is, how do they fit in with the overall just environment and happenings of what is happening with the team. That's how I feel about fit.
No, I love that you brought up the Valkyries, and also shout out to our producer, Emma, who put in the chat, I'm a hockey person, folks. Mentioned the 1980 Miracle on Ice team, where they made a choice to go with young guns and really emphasized and trained them to think about culture in a very specific way. And sometimes you have a coaching staff and a GM, a front office, that's what they want. And if you're not fitting into that, you can be the greatest goal scorer, the best shooter, whatever the case is. But if you're not fitting that, you can't get down with the program, then you can't be on the program. You're not going to be on the roster. So that's tough. I don't know. It could be any one of those things. But to answer that question, goes fit can be a lot of different things. And sometimes it changes even within a season.
Yeah. And I think the years of players having to stay in a fit that isn't right for them is obsolete, which I love, because I know I was a player back in the day that was in a fit that wasn't right for me, but there's nothing I could really do about it because I would have to sit out, redshirt. It was so many things. And at that point in my career, it just wasn't an option. And now players don't necessarily have that in college. But it can happen at any point in time in your career. And certainly in the WNBA, it can happen too. So hopefully it works out for everybody, right?
Yup. And speaking of, I mean, Melissa, the Smith trade, that I was shooketh.
I was as well. I was as well. And I also was sad for Dejanay.
I know.
My whole heart was like, oh no. No, that was the first thing I thought of. I'm not gonna lie. The first thing.
I mean, that's fair. I feel like we all did. I will say this. I'm honestly still processing. So that's my first thought. The second thing is, I've been saying for a minute that Vegas needs to figure out how to get more support for A'ja Wilson in that front court. So if this is a way to do it, I'm here for it. And then it did hurt my little heart that they also let go of Kitley. I liked the minutes that she gave. Coming off of that injury, snapping back. A'ja Wilson had nothing but good things to say about her rook, as she said. So that was a little tough too. But I mean, you got to make these changes. These are the tough moves, going back to the fit question, right?
What about Van Loo? I just got off an 18-hour flight to come back.
Girl, I almost mentioned that earlier. I was definitely thinking it. That's tough. I'd be tight.
Real tough. I'd be tight too. Well, we have so much to talk about that we can't fit it into one show, Erica, ever. And we're definitely going to be talking about this live on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports Network. So tune in. Please tune in. It's going to be a great show. And today we had a little bit of technical difficulties, and we apologize for that. But thank you for staying with us and sticking with us. Thank you for all the comments, the questions. We love being here with you on We Need to Talk Now. And, whether it be a show on CBS Sports Network, or whether it be here live on YouTube, a podcast, whatever it may be. So make sure that you're connected. Here's all the ways down here to connect. And we're going to show you a QR code at the end of this episode that will just lock you right into everything that you need to know about the podcast, so that you can connect, share, do all of the things, so that we can be right back with you right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.